Best of r/ Tales from Retail episode 64. Subscribe for Reddit videos daily, FTP, mobile apologies, etc. I work for a wireless company. There are always fun stories from here. I had to open the other day. It had been an annoying day already before I opened the store. Codes wouldn't work, so I had to wait to cash in and other opening duties. I see someone at my door 15 minutes before I open, standing there staring at me. After finishing up everything, I decide to be nice and open a couple minutes early for this guy. Me C, customer. Hi, come on in. What can we do for you? C, I need to pay my bill. Perfect, let's get that taken care of over here. How is your morning going so far? C, it'd be better if people knew how to keep a schedule. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully me getting you in here a couple minutes early helps that out a little. C, well, you didn't open early. You opened late. I have a schedule to keep and this is messing everything up. No, I didn't. Shows him time on 2 different devices. You can see the time H. See, I don't care what that says. You opened late. I said I have things to do. Sure. Okay. Processes payment to get him out of there. I usually let these things slide as I've been working retail for about 15 years. I just can't let this one go though, lol. Thank you. Next. This happened about 6 years ago. It was a Tuesday night, I believe. The stores usually close at about 9 p.m. In this particular night, we did not have many people left in the store, and it was about 8:45 p.m. I get asked to count the number of customers in the store, to make sure no one gets locked in before we leave. I walk a lap around the aisles, and lo and behold, no customers in the store, only staff. As I exit an aisle finishing my head count, I noticed an older gentleman, for old man, at the service desk, receipt in hand and a frown on his face, conversing with the supervisor. It has to be about 5 minutes before we close at this point. As I am walking back to the checkout I was on, the supervisor notices me, and asks me if I could quickly go to price check an item for with him. You can guess what the query was about. Being overcharged, when the ticket said it was $X. XX and how he wouldn't have bought the item if it wasn't on special in the first place. He saw the ticket himself. Yada yada yada. I am right. You are wrong. Give me refund or I will go big mad blah blah blah. I agree to go with to the aisle to check the price of the thing he had been outrageously overcharged for. I grab the receipt, smile and greet and off we go on this noble quest to right this assault on his financial integrity. As I walk with to correct this absolute corporate mugging, he gives me a rather odd smile, and begins to pick up the pace, passing me, and walking in front of me. Weird, also rude, but it is almost home time, so whatever. I try to match his pace, but being rather insecure, I stay slightly behind him, as if my presence might offend him. It might as well had, because this next exchange is by far one of the rudest conversations I have had. I look at receipt. I see, sir, this item was on the wrong spot. The label is actually for this item. But it was right there. Points at wrong spot. I understand, but it was on the wrong place. It was right there. It has to be right item. He began raising his voice at me, and getting more upset with every iteration of my explanation that the ticket was for another item, and not the one he picked. Him being the reasonable man he is, explains, or rather, yells at me that I am mistaken, and that the item's placement determines the item's value. Once I collect myself to try and explain that he can have the other item and the price difference refunded, he interrupts me one more time. It was right there. Kicks the spot, rattling the shelves. Now, I was crouched, and my head was not very far from where he had kicked. Before I could even awkwardly / shakily rebuttal with the same explanation, he raises his voice one more time. You're a fucking idiot. Then begins to aggressively walk. I didn't know that was a thing either, at the time, until I witnessed it, murmuring what must be voodoo curses upon the store, the brand, and myself. I try to catch up with him, because I have the impression that he will claim he was right to the supervisor, getting his refund, and calling me inadequate, as any other reasonable man would do. After all, $1.50 is $1.50, and he will not have his mortgage go unpaid because of our unprofessional manner. This man possessed incredible speed, probably fueled by the injustice bestowed upon him, because by the time I got out of the aisle, he was already at the counter getting his refund, and the item. The supervisor did not even wait for my input, as it was already around 9:02 p.m. and we needed to close. I did not have the nerve to speak of what happened with the supervisor. I just wanted to go home. I did rant to other staff members about it. I made sure to remark on the irony of being called an idiot, when it appeared to me that simply reading a price ticker to see which product goes for that price is a feature that even a 7-year-old could accomplish. Thank you. Next. I work at a discount retailer, so our inventory is something different every day. Other businesses are sending in their past season stuff. This lady who was probably 50 comes up to the counter with a dress, slams it on the counter and asks me to find out which other stores I can find this in, cause she wants this dress, but needs another size. I tell her it's not possible for me to look that up. The only way to do it is to physically call the stores themselves, which she could also do. I look at the dress and tell her that this was bought online and then returned to this store, because we mark the tags for that. I tell her it might still be on our website. She asks how to do that, so I pulled my phone out to show her the website. She didn't have her phone with her. I look up the brand on the dress and nothing comes up. I tell her that it's not on the website anymore, but maybe it's somewhere else in a regular store. So I just do a Google search of the dress and I see it's being sold on Amazon for $20 more than what we are selling it for. She asks why it's more expensive online than what we have it for, and I tell her because Amazon is a different retailer, that we are a discount store. Lady, well, someone bought this on Amazon and then returned it here and now you have it $20 cheaper. I want to pay $39.99 for it, not $59.99 me. No, that's not how it works. We don't accept returns from Amazon. Amazon is a different store than us. Amazon is just also selling the dress. We had the dress on our online store. We no longer have it. She actually understood and took it well, and then asked me to write down step-by-step instructions on how to find it at home. Not just search this brand number, but like, type in Amazon.com, search for this exact thing in the search bar, where the search bar is, press put in cart, how to check out online. It was a little wild and silly, especially because she wasn't an old person, but I hope she was able to go home and get her dress without any problems. Thank you. Next. Not me, but I witnessed it. Several years back the governor signed a bill placing $3 a pack tax on cigarettes. Friend of mine worked as a clerk in a convenience store and I had stopped in for some snacks and was visiting with her for a bit. A big black SUV pulls in the lot and a man climbs out of the back seat and comes in. This exchange happens. Man, I need a pack of certain brand of cigarettes. Friend, okay, that'll be $7. Man, $7? You've got to be kidding me. How could they be $7? That's outrageous. Friend, well sir, it's mostly tax. So you have no one to blame but yourself. Governor, you look similar to a goldfish sucking water. Followed by a very defeated man walking out. We waited until his driver got him out of sight before laughing our asses off. I tell this story every chance I get. Thank you. Next. I work part-time at a grocery store and here's an example of an impatient customer. I was in the middle of scanning a customer's groceries, very clearly not sitting and doing nothing. This one guy came up to me and asked for a particular brand of smokes while basically throwing a €20 note in my face. I backed off a bit and told him no, since I was in the middle of ringing up another customer. Also there was a line. I told him to wait for his turn and go to the back of the line. He backed off a bit. I finished ringing up the current customer and went on to the next. When I was done with them the guy came up to me again. Before he could say anything I started scanning the next customer's stuff, and I told him he had to go to the back of the line and that there had been several people waiting longer than him. He tried it one more time before he finally understood that I wouldn't let him cut. The best thing about this was that by now there were even more people in line, some of them with loaded carts, and no one would let him cut when he asked. Thank you. Next. Having worked part-time in retail for the past 10 years I've had my share of wonderful costumers. This is the first time that I'm posting anything on Reddit and also English isn't my first language, so I'm sorry for any mistakes in grammar and spelling. Anyway, this is my first tale from retail. I work in a grocery store, and if a customer asks for it, the cashiers call them a taxi for free. The call is free, not the ride, from our work phones. It's mostly our older customers without cell phones that ask us to call. To make the job easier for the cashiers, the number for a local taxi company is programmed on speed dial. On a very stressful day, we were way understaffed. We were only 2 working the registers, so the lines were long. I was focusing on my work and didn't care about anything that was happening at the register across from me. I suddenly hear my name being called and my colleague asked me to call a taxi for this lady who'd asked him to do it. I was stressed, so I just did it instead of questioning him about why he couldn't. I sort of just assumed that either the phone didn't work on his side or he didn't know how the speed dial worked on these old phones. For some reason the number didn't work. The dial tone was like nothing I've heard before. I tried again and the same thing happened. I figured there might be something wrong with the phone, so I called my boss just to see if I could get through. Of course that worked. When my boss answered, I just told her I was testing the phone and hung up. I tried the taxi number again, but only got that strange dial tone. I turned to my colleague and told him that it didn't work. He said he'd tried 4 times from his phone before he asked me and nothing happened. I turned to the lady who had asked for the taxi, who during this time had done nothing but sigh dramatically and tapped her foot, that there's nothing else we can do since the number didn't work right now. She wasn't happy. Thank you. Next. I work part-time at a grocery store, and here's something that happened a few years ago. It was a few minutes after closing time and we were 4 very tired workers who all wanted to go home. But there was one customer still inside. He's left his basket close to the register, so we figured he had just quickly run to get something he'd forgotten. One of my colleagues decided to loudly start closing and locking the cigarette cabinet so that the customer would hurry up. Another colleague went to look for the customer. We could hear her calmly explain that the store was closed and that he had to go to the register right now. It was about 15 minutes past closing by now and we still had stuff to do before we could leave. The customer finally agreed to come to the register and we can hear him loudly cursing my colleague. He throws his stuff up on the counter and now he's facing his anger towards me. He's screaming and cursing about how we didn't have a certain thing that he needed and that we've ruined his night. I'm just scanning his stuff and then I hold up something that is basically the exact thing he said we didn't have, aroma for the sauna. He looks at me like I'm crazy, because obviously that wasn't the right kind of aroma. He says he wants such and such smell. Once again I hold up that same item and tell him that this is the smell that he's talking about. But no, it's the brand that is wrong. I give up and scan the rest of his stuff, while he's still cursing. He finally leaves and we can start closing the store. There's a book of things that need to be done before we can leave, but we are finally out the door. 50 minutes after actual closing time. I was still living at home when this happened, and because it was so late my dad had actually come looking for me.